We've configured OSPF in a network, but does this configuration ensure the security of OSPF data and OSPF messages being carried over the network? Absolutely not. In the absence of authentication, an attacker can cause a denial of service or DOS attack, and a reconnaissance attack by manipulating OSPF data and interpreting OSPF messages. So you'll need to authenticate OSPF to implement security at the OSPF stage. 3 types of authentication can be implemented in OSPF: Type 0, 1, and 2. Type 0 is null authentication, which means that there is no authentication. Type 1 is simple text password authentication. Type 2 is Message Digest Algorithm 5 or MD5 authentication. When a router implements OSPF authentication on an interface, that router must pass the authentication process for every OSPF message in all the neighboring routers on that interface. So it is required that each neighboring router on that interface must use the same authentication type and password. You can implement OSPF authentication using the interface commands. You can use 2 interface subcommands on each interface. The first command to implement the type of authentication and the other to set the authentication password. The syntax of these interface subcommands differs based on the type of authentication to be implemented, so it is important that you recall the command syntax used in these 2 interface subcommands. The table displayed on the screen lists the 3 types of OSPF authentication and their corresponding commands. Let's look at the example of a simple password authentication on one interface and MD5 authentication on the other interface. In this example, the interface GI0/0 implements simple authentication, and the interface GI0/1 implements MD5 authentication. The default setting to implement Type 0 authentication can be overridden on a per area basis using the Area Authentication Router command. In this example, router A can be configured with the Area 1 Authentication Message-Digest Router subcommand. This enables router A to use default MD5 authentication on all its interfaces in Area 1. The Area 1 Authentication Router subcommand implements simple text password authentication for all the interfaces in Area 1 and does not require the IP OSPF authentication interface subcommand.